You have been told your whole life that money buys freedom. But the people who actually have the most money, the ones who have held it for 100 years, 200 years, they will tell you something different. They will tell you that money, on its own, disappears. What lasts is a system. And for one family, a quiet family from Poland who survived 2 world wars, who lost everything twice and rebuilt twice, that system became the most respected watchmaker on the face of the earth. This is the story of the Stern family, and it is not really a story about watches. Most people think the goal is to get rich. You hear it everywhere. Build your income, stack your savings, buy the thing that shows the world you made it. And for most people, the watch is the prize. You earn money, you buy the Rolex, you post the photo. Done. But here is the thing no one talks about. The people who make the Rolex, the people who make the Patek, they do not buy the watch to show the world they made it. They made the watch to show the world something else entirely. They made it to say, "We will still be here when you are gone." You never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely look after it for the next generation. That line, that single sentence, is not marketing. It is a philosophy. It is the way certain families think about everything they build. Not for now, not for themselves, but for what comes after. The Stern family did not just build a watch company. They built a dynasty. And there is a massive difference between those two things. Here is how most people think about building something. They think in months, maybe years. How much can I make this year? How fast can I grow? And that thinking, fast, urgent, focused on now, produces a certain kind of result. It produces products, it produces profits, it produces companies, but it does not produce dynasties, because dynasties require a completely different kind of thinking. Dynasty thinking is not about this year. It is about what your great-grandchildren will inherit. When Charles Stern and his sons took control of Patek Philippe in 1932, right in the middle of the Great Depression, the company was almost dead. The world was collapsing. People were not buying watches. People were surviving. And yet the Sterns did not sell. They did not strip it for parts. They did not pivot to something easier. They bought it. In the middle of a global economic disaster, they bought it. That single decision tells you everything you need to know about how this family thinks. To understand the Sterns, you have to go back further than watches, back to Poland, back to the 1800s. The Stern family built their early fortune in ribbon manufacturing, the decorative ribbons used on uniforms and textiles across Europe. It sounds small. It was not. Ribbons touched everything: ceremonies, military dress, royal events. The Sterns learned early that beautiful, precise, handcrafted things always find buyers. That lesson would follow them for generations. Patek Philippe was born in 1851, officially registered as a company. It was already a legend before the Sterns ever touched it. Queen Victoria owned one. Albert Einstein owned one. The company made the most complicated pocket watch ever built at that time. But by the 1920s, after the First World War, after economic chaos, Patek Philippe was struggling. The original family was gone. The company needed new hands. In 1932, Henri and Charles Stern, brothers, sons of the original Stern textile family, walked into that struggling company and wrote a check. One of the worst economic years in modern history. And they became the owners. What happened next is a study in patience. They did not change everything. They did not rebrand. They did not discount. They protected quality so fiercely that it became a kind of religion inside the company. Every single movement, the tiny mechanical heart inside every watch, was built by hand, tested, retested, certified. A single Patek Philippe watch can take a craftsperson an entire year to complete. 1 year for one watch. In a world obsessed with speed, they chose slowness, and the world paid for that slowness handsomely. The company passed from Henri and Charles to Jean and Philippe Stern, then to Thierry Stern, the fourth generation, who became president in 2009. 4 generations, the same family, the same name on the door. In an industry where most companies get sold, merged, or dismantled, Patek Philippe has never been publicly traded. It has never been listed on any stock exchange. No outside investors, no board of shareholders demanding faster growth, just one family and their obsession with permanence. In 2021, a stainless steel Patek Philippe sports watch sold at auction for more than $7 million. It was made of the same material as your kitchen appliances, steel, and it sold for $7 million because of what the name meant, because of what the family built, because trust over 100 years becomes worth more than any material. When you walk into a Patek Philippe salon, they do not rush you. There is no loud music, no flashing screens, no sale signs. A person comes to you quietly, offers you a seat. They ask what you are looking for, and then they listen. Because a Patek Philippe is not a purchase. It is a conversation that spans generations. The people who buy these watches are not buying status. Some of them, yes. But the collectors, the people who really understand what they hold in their hand, they are buying continuity. They are buying something that will work in 50 years exactly as it works today. Something they can put in a box, write a name on it, and leave behind for someone they love. There is a reason why Patek Philippe watches appear in wills, in safe deposit boxes, passed from father to son, mother to daughter. They are not luxuries, not really. They are time capsules, sealed with craftsmanship, opened by the next generation. That is the luxury, not the gold, not the diamonds. The certainty that what you built will still be here after you are gone. Here is the thing that hit me the hardest when I studied this family. The Sterns were not the original founders of Patek Philippe. They did not invent the brand. They did not come from watchmaking at all. They came from ribbons, from textiles, from a completely different world. And yet, they preserved this institution better than the people who built it. Why? Because they understood something that the original founders, in their brilliance, perhaps missed. They understood that the most dangerous moment for any great thing, any company, any idea, any legacy, is not when it is struggling. It is when it is successful. When things are going well, the temptation to grow fast is enormous. List the stock, sell the brand, open 1,000 stores, triple the production, let more people have it. The Sterns never did that. They made fewer watches, not more. They raised prices, not lowered them. They made access harder, not easier. There are people who have waited 5 to 7 years to buy a specific Patek Philippe model. 5 to 7 years. And they wait, gladly. Because when something is truly rare, when it is protected with real discipline, people do not lose interest. They become more devoted. The Sterns understood that scarcity is not a supply chain problem. It is a choice, a strategy, a commitment to never becoming ordinary. So what does a family from Poland who made ribbons and then bought a dying watch company in 1932 teach us about how wealth really works? First, they bought in the dark. They made their biggest move when the world was most afraid. In 1932, When banks were failing and economies were collapsing, they saw something others could not see, a sleeping giant. The lesson is not buy low. Anyone can say that. The lesson is to act when others are frozen. You need conviction built over years, not a tip from a video. Second, they protected the core obsessively. Everything at Patek Philippe is built around one idea: permanent quality. Every decision the Sterns made about growth, about distribution, about production was filtered through that single question. Does this protect the quality, or does it dilute it? Most businesses ask, does this make us more money? The Sterns asked a different question, and that different question is why they are still here. Third, they stayed private on purpose. In 1999, LVMH, the most powerful luxury conglomerate in the world, approached Patek Philippe. They wanted to buy it. The Sterns said no. Richemont has tried. Others have tried. The answer is always no. Because the moment you take outside money, you take outside opinions, and outside opinions, over time, change what you are. The price of independence is saying no to a lot of money. The reward for that independence is being around 100 years later, still exactly who you said you were. And fourth, they made time itself the product, not just the watch, not just the movement. Time, legacy, the idea that something beautiful and precise can outlast any person who makes it. When your product is a symbol of endurance, when people buy it specifically because it will last, you have removed yourself from the regular market. You are no longer competing on price. You are not competing on trend. You exist in a different category entirely. That category is called permanence. And permanence, in business, in legacy, in anything, is the rarest thing in the world. We live in a world that rewards speed, that celebrates the people who moved the fastest, the ones who scaled, pivoted, exited, and moved on. And there is nothing wrong with speed. Speed has its place. But watch what the Stern family built. Not in a year, not in a decade. In 4 generations of the same quiet, deliberate, protective thinking. Thierry Stern, the great-grandson of the man who bought the company in the Great Depression, still goes to the factory floor. He still sits with the craftspeople. He still holds the movements in his hands. And when asked once what makes Patek Philippe different, he said something that stayed with me. We are not afraid to be small. We are afraid to be less than what we are. Not afraid to be small. Think about what that means. In every business school, every startup culture, every corner of the internet, the message is growth, 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 scale, expand, dominate. And then there is this family, who is not afraid to be small, who is only afraid of becoming less than what they are. That is the dynasty mindset. Not a bigger house every year, not a bigger number every quarter. A clearer, deeper, more protected sense of what you are, and a total refusal to compromise it for anything. The Sterns did not start with watches. They started with ribbons. They lost everything in 2 wars. They rebuilt twice. They bought a dying company in a dying economy, and they turned it into the single most respected watchmaker in the history of the world. Not by moving fast, not by going public, not by becoming something more, by becoming completely, uncompromisingly, themselves. Most empires are built by people who wanted more. The Stern family built theirs by wanting nothing less.